The night sky was burning. The huge ship tore through the atmosphere like a dying star. Fire covered its wings, smoke trailed behind, and metal screamed. Inside the broken vessel, alarms rang louder than thunder. Ethan's eyes opened. His head hit the floor as gravity shifted again. Sparks flew above him, painting the walls red. He tried to stand, but the ship shook violently, throwing him back down. Around him, voices screamed in fear. High, soft musical voices, not human voices. The crash came with a roar that shook the earth. The ship smashed through thick trees, splitting them like matchsticks. Metal ripped apart, and finally silence fell, heavy and cruel. Ethan coughed, forcing his eyes open. Smoke stung his throat. His hands searched the ground, pushing away broken wires and glass. He was alive. Barely. Around him he saw them. 20 alien women lay scattered across the wreck. Some were moving, some unconscious, their strange clothes torn by fire and steel. Their skin shone in strange colors. Silver, green, pale blue. Their eyes, when they opened, glowed faintly in the dark. They were not human, yet they were beautiful in a way Ethan could not understand. Ethan pushed himself up. He was the only man here, the only human. The air was heavy, pressing down on his chest. Every breath felt like work. The ground under him was dark soil, damp and alive with tiny glowing insects. A sky of black clouds rolled above, covering the stars. Then came the sound. It was low, deep, and full of hunger. From somewhere in the jungle, a growl rolled like thunder. The alien women froze. Their glowing eyes turned to the trees, wide with terror. Ethan felt his skin crawl. He had heard predators before on Earth. Lions, wolves, even bears. But this was different. This sound was older, deadlier. One of the alien women tried to stand, but her leg bled. Ethan moved fast, pulling her up. "Stay close," he said, though he knew they barely understood him. Still, his voice was steady. His voice was strong. He searched the wreck. Most of the tools were broken, burned. The only thing he could use was a long piece of sharp metal. He gripped it tight, a weapon. Crude, but better than nothing. Another growl, closer now. The jungle moved as if something huge was pushing through. Branches cracked. Leaves shook. The aliens whispered in fear, their voices like soft music. Ethan stood in front of them. Alone. The protector. The sound stopped. Silence. Then 2 eyes appeared between the trees. Bright yellow. Watching, Ethan's heart pounded. His hands were wet with sweat, but he did not lower the weapon. The eyes blinked once, then disappeared. The aliens gasped. Something big circled them, hidden in the dark. The ground shook with its weight. Ethan made a choice. "We move," he said. "Now." He pulled one alien up and the others followed. Together they left the burning wreck behind and stumbled into the jungle. The air smelled of wet plants and ash. Strange flowers glowed with cold light. Huge roots twisted out of the ground like snakes. Every step was dangerous. Behind them, branches cracked again. The creature was following. The group hurried, but many were weak, injured. Ethan carried one on his back, his muscles screaming under the heavy gravity. Still, he did not stop. He could not stop. Finally, they reached a small clearing. A dead tree stood in the middle, its bark black and hard like stone. Ethan pointed to it. "There, we rest." They sat in a circle, shaking, whispering in their alien language. Ethan leaned against the dead tree, breathing hard. His arms ached, but he kept the metal spear in his hand. Night deepened. The jungle came alive with strange noises, screeches, clicks, wings beating in the dark. But louder than all was the predator. It never left. Its growl rose again, echoing around them, closing in. The aliens clung to each other. One of them looked at Ethan, her glowing blue eyes full of fear, and said in broken words, "Monster, we'll kill." Ethan tightened his grip on the weapon. His voice was calm, but his heart raced. Not tonight. Suddenly, the bushes exploded. A massive beast leapt into the clearing. Its body was covered in black scales, its mouth filled with jagged teeth. Long claws cut the ground as it roared, shaking the air. The alien screamed. Ethan stepped forward. Alone. The only human. The only one willing to fight. The beast lowered its head, ready to strike. Its yellow eyes locked on Ethan. The world froze for a single second, man against monster. 20 lives hanging in the balance. Ethan raised the spear. The fight for survival had begun. The monster roared, shaking the ground. Its black scales shimmered under the strange moonlight, and steam hissed from its nostrils like smoke. The 20 alien women froze in terror, their glowing eyes wide. Ethan stood tall, his chest rising and falling, the sharp piece of metal tight in his hands. He had no armor, no gun, no shield, only courage. The beast charged, its claws tore the soil, sending rocks flying. Ethan waited. He didn't move. He let it come closer, closer, until he could smell its foul breath. At the last second, he rolled to the side, slamming the sharp metal into its shoulder. The beast howled, the sound so loud the trees shook. Blood, dark and thick, spilled across the ground. Ethan's hands were wet with it. The alien women cried out in shock. They had never seen such raw, close combat before. The monster swung its tail like a giant whip. It smashed into Ethan, throwing him against the dead tree. Pain exploded in his ribs. His weapon fell. For a moment, the world blurred. The beast turned, ready to strike again. Its jaws opened, sharp teeth shining, but Ethan stood. He staggered to his feet, grabbed the broken metal, and shouted at the top of his lungs. "Come on, you want me? Take me." The sound cut through the fear. The aliens gasped, watching the lone human defy the impossible. The monster lunged. Ethan jumped aside, driving the spear into its eye. The creature screamed, thrashing wildly, crashing into trees. Its massive body crushed plants and roots, shaking the ground. Finally, with a heavy crash, the beast fell. Its body twitched, then went still. Silence. Only the sound of heavy breathing remained. Ethan's breath, rough and broken, and the soft sobs of the alien women. Ethan pulled the weapon free and stood over the dead beast. His hands shook, his body bled, but his eyes burned with fire. For the first time since the crash, the aliens looked at him not with fear, but with awe. One of them whispered in their soft, musical language. Another repeated it, this time in broken English. "Human. Killed. Monster." Ethan wiped the blood from his face. "It was just the first," he said quietly. "There will be more." The group gathered around the corpse. The aliens had never hunted like this. Their people used machines, technology, not strength. They watched as Ethan checked the beast's body, pulling sharp bones from its legs. Tools. Weapons. He gave one to the tallest alien. She held it with shaking hands, unsure. "Use this," Ethan said, slowly moving her arms into the right position. "Fight if you must." The aliens nodded, though fear still lived in their eyes. Hours passed. The jungle grew louder. Strange cries echoed through the trees, clicking sounds, metallic screeches, things that were not animal. The aliens whispered among themselves. Ethan caught only fragments, but one word repeated again and again. "Hunters." "Hunters?" Ethan asked. The tallest alien hesitated, then spoke slowly. "Not beast. Not wild. Other people, killers." Ethan frowned. If there were others on this planet, they were not friends. By dawn, the group was weak with hunger. Ethan searched the forest. Strange fruits hung from glowing vines, but when one alien tasted them, her lips turned black. Poison. Ethan forced her to spit it out and gave her water instead. He knew they couldn't survive long like this. They needed food, shelter, safety. Then he saw something strange. Far in the distance, past the thick jungle, smoke rose into the sky. Not natural smoke. A thin, straight line, like from a fire built by hands, not nature. "Someone is out there," Ethan said. The aliens looked afraid. "Hunters," one whispered. Ethan tightened his grip on the bone weapon. "Our help." They moved slowly, carrying the injured. The jungle fought them with every step. Thorns cut their skin. Insects bit. Heavy roots tried to trip them. Strange birds circled overhead, their wings black and wide like shadows. Then, without warning, they found it. A clearing, wide and open. In the center stood ruins. Towering stones carved with symbols that glowed faintly blue. Broken walls half-eaten by vines. A place older than memory. The aliens froze. Their eyes widened in shock. They whispered in fear and wonder. Ethan touched one of the glowing stones. The carvings pulsed brighter, reacting to his hand. A soft hum filled the air. The aliens gasped, stepping back. "Chosen," one of them whispered. Ethan pulled his hand away. The glow faded. The ruins were not dead. They were waiting. Before Ethan could speak, a new sound cut through the jungle. Footsteps, heavy, deliberate. Not animal. Not random. Ethan raised his weapon. The aliens huddled close, trembling. From the broken doorway of the ruin, shadows moved. Shapes stepped forward, tall and armored. Their eyes glowed red through dark helmets. Not beasts. Not nature. Hunters. And they had been waiting. The ruins glowed faintly, like the breath of a sleeping giant. Blue light ran through the carvings as if veins of power still lived in the stone. Ethan stood in the middle of the clearing, his crude weapon ready, the 20 alien women behind him. From the broken doorway the hunters emerged. They were tall, armored, and silent. Their helmets hid their faces, but red eyes glowed behind black glass. Their weapons were sharp, curved like claws, glowing faintly with energy. Unlike the beast from the night before, these were not mindless creatures. They moved with discipline. They were soldiers. Ethan felt the air grow colder. The aliens whispered in fear. "Hunters." The hunters stopped a few steps away. One raised its weapon, tapping the ground. Sparks hissed. Then it spoke, voice deep and broken like metal grinding. "Leave or die." The words were rough but clear enough. Ethan's grip tightened. His instincts screamed to fight, but he knew they were outnumbered, unprepared, weak from hunger and wounds. He forced his voice steady. "We will leave." The hunters stood still, watching with those burning eyes. For a moment the jungle was silent, waiting. Then the leader raised its claw weapon, pointed at Ethan, and said only one word. "Human." The air seemed to freeze. The aliens gasped, shocked that the hunters recognized what he was. Ethan said nothing. He met the red eyes without fear. The hunters tilted their heads as if studying him. Then without another word they stepped back into the ruins and disappeared into shadow. The carvings dimmed. The hum faded. The jungle's noise returned. Ethan lowered his weapon, but his heart raced. "They knew me," he whispered. The aliens gathered close. Their leader, a tall woman with silver skin and golden eyes, looked at Ethan with fear and awe. "Ruins, oh, not for us, for them," Ethan asked. "Them?" She struggled with words. "Ancients, builders, strong, long ago. Gone, but ruins, still alive." Ethan looked at the carvings. They had glowed only when he touched them. Not for the aliens. Not even for the hunters. Why him? They searched the ruins cautiously. Broken walls, fallen towers, and shattered statues lay covered in vines. Yet the ground was warm, as if something below still pulsed with life. In one chamber, Ethan found strange carvings. They showed tall figures, different from both aliens and hunters. At the center of the carvings was a symbol, a star surrounded by chains. Beneath it, the word burned in glowing script, "Prison." Ethan stared. This planet, it's not just wild, it was made. The aliens looked at him, fear in their eyes. "Prison world," one whispered. That night they stayed hidden among the ruins. The aliens were restless, whispering of the hunters. Ethan remained awake, guarding with his crude spear, listening to the jungle. But in the silence, something strange happened. The carvings began to glow again. A soft light spread across the stones, forming shapes in the air. A projection. The aliens gasped. Before them floated the image of the ancients, tall, armored, faceless. Their voices echoed like thunder. "Survive. Only the worthy leave. All others remain." Then the vision ended. The ruins went dark again. Ethan clenched his fists. So this is a test. A game of survival. The aliens shivered. To them this was a curse, an old legend made real. To Ethan it was clear. Someone, long ago, had built this planet to trap the strong and break the weak, and now, he and these 20 alien women were part of it. At dawn, Ethan explored further. He found a pool of water inside the ruins, glowing faintly. When he tasted it, the burning in his throat eased and his wounds felt lighter. The aliens drank too, and their strength slowly returned. "Water is life," Ethan said. "We can survive here." But even as hope rose, danger grew. From the trees came movement. Not beasts, not hunters, drones. Small metallic creatures with red lights for eyes. They crawled over the ruins, scanning, clicking. One stopped in front of Ethan. It tilted, scanning his face. Then it screeched, the ruins shook. The blue carvings flared. Somewhere deep underground, something woke. The drones scattered. Ethan pulled the aliens close. "We need to move, now." They ran deeper into the ruins. Strange hallways led them underground, where walls glowed with faint light. The air was colder, heavier. Symbols lined the stone. Warnings, perhaps, or instructions. Then they reached a chamber. At the center stood a pedestal. On it lay a strange weapon, ancient but glowing with power. The aliens gasped, refusing to step closer. "Forbidden," one said. "Not for us." Ethan approached slowly. The weapon pulsed as if alive. When he touched it, blue light exploded, filling the chamber. The aliens fell to their knees, covering their eyes. Ethan lifted the weapon. It was light, shaped like a blade, yet humming with energy. The carvings glowed brighter. A voice echoed again. Human, the key. Ethan's eyes narrowed. Whatever the ancients wanted, he was now part of it. But before he could think further, the ground shook violently. Rocks fell from the ceiling. The ruins trembled, and from the shadows the hunters returned, and more of them, their red eyes burning like fire. They had come not for the aliens. They had come for him. The ruins shook as the hunters marched forward. Their red eyes glowed in the darkness, their armored steps echoing like drums of war. Ethan stood in the center of the chamber, the glowing blade in his hand. The aliens huddled behind him, whispering in fear. The leader of the hunters raised his weapon, a long spear that crackled with red energy. His voice came like broken metal. Human belongs to us. Ethan tightened his grip on the glowing blade. Over my dead body, the hunters spread out, circling the chamber. Their movements were silent, practiced like predators who had done this many times before. Ethan's heart pounded. His body was tired, his ribs still bruised from the monster fight, but his spirit burned. He had no choice but to fight. The first hunter rushed forward fast as lightning. Ethan swung the glowing blade. It cut through armor as if it were paper. Sparks exploded. The hunter fell motionless. The aliens gasped. They had never seen anyone face the hunters head-on. Another hunter lunged from the side. Ethan spun, blocking the strike. The weapons clashed, blue against red, light filling the chamber. The force shook the air. Ethan gritted his teeth and pushed forward, slamming the blade into the hunter's chest. The red eyes went dark, but there were more. 2 hunters charged together. Ethan barely dodged, rolling across the stone floor. His blade hummed, glowing brighter as if feeding on his will. He struck again, carving through one hunter's leg. The alien women screamed as the other hunter closed in, weapon raised to kill. At the last second, Ethan threw himself in front of them, blade up. The strike met his blade, the energy exploding in a flash of light that blinded the chamber. When the light cleared, the hunter was on the ground. Ethan stood over him, chest heaving. The leader growled, stepping closer. Human. Dangerous, must... And Ethan raised the blade. Try me. The fight raged through the ruins. The chamber shook as blades clashed. Sparks lit the walls, carving scars into ancient stone. The alien women tried to stay hidden, but the chaos was everywhere. Ethan fought like a man possessed. Every strike, every movement was desperate but sharp. He was not stronger, not faster, but he was human. He adapted. He learned with each blow. Finally, only the leader remained. His armor glowed red, his strength greater than the others. He moved with speed that forced Ethan back step by step. The leader struck hard, driving Ethan to his knees. The glowing blade hummed louder, but Ethan's arms shook under the weight. His breath came ragged. Human. Weak. The leader hissed. Ethan gritted his teeth. Not weak. Never weak. He twisted, using the enemy's own force against him, and drove the glowing blade deep into the hunter's side. The leader roared, armor cracking. Ethan pinned him against the stone wall. The hunter struggled, but Ethan's rage kept him strong. Why me? Ethan shouted. Why do you want me? The hunter's red eyes flickered. His voice broke with static. Planet, alive. Chooses test, human, key. Then he coughed a strange hiss, half laugh, half growl. But planet. Hungry all? We'll die. Ethan ripped the weapon free. The leader fell, red eyes fading. Silence fell. The alien women crept from hiding, their glowing eyes wide with shock. They looked at Ethan, bloody, wounded, but standing over the bodies of armored hunters. One whispered, "He fights. Like no one," another said softly. "He fights like fire." Ethan dropped to one knee, exhausted. He used the glowing blade to steady himself. His chest burned with pain, but he forced a grin. Still alive. The silver-skinned alien, their leader, knelt beside him. "You do protect us." "Why?" Ethan looked at her, his eyes hard. "Because if I don't, no one else will." They searched the bodies of the fallen hunters. The weapons they carried were strange, too heavy for the alien women to use, but Ethan managed to strap one across his back. He also found a small device glowing with red light. When he pressed it, a projection appeared. It showed a map, the ruins, the jungle, and beyond. Dots of red marked locations across the planet. "Camps," Ethan said. "There are more of them." The aliens shivered. They whispered, "Hunters everywhere." Ethan shut the device off. His jaw tightened. "Then we need to be smarter, faster. If they want a fight, we'll give them one." Later, as they rested, Ethan dragged one surviving hunter into the chamber. The alien was wounded, armor cracked, but still alive. The alien women were terrified, but Ethan tied him with vines and forced him to speak. "Tell me the truth, what is this place?" The hunter's red eyes flickered weakly. His voice was a whisper of static. "Not planet. Not home. Prison. For the strong. For the killers. For the human." Ethan's heart froze. "For me?" the hunter hissed. "Planet. Watches. Planet. Feeds. None escape." Then, with a final shudder, the hunter went silent. The aliens stared at Ethan. He looked at the glowing blade in his hand, then at the ruins around them. This was no accident. The crash, the beasts, the hunters, even the ruins reacting to him. It was all part of something bigger, and the planet itself was not just ground and sky. It was alive. It was testing him. Outside, thunder rolled across the jungle. The ground trembled with distant quakes. The air smelled of fire and storms. Ethan raised the glowing blade. His voice was calm but filled with fire. "If this planet wants to test me, then it picked the wrong human." The jungle was never quiet. Even when no beast roared and no hunter moved, the planet whispered. Leaves rubbed together, vines swayed though no wind blew, and the ground sometimes shook without reason. Ethan felt it every moment, as if the earth itself was breathing beneath their feet. The alien women followed him closely, their glowing eyes full of unease. They had seen beasts, they had seen hunters, but this was different. Now the world itself seemed alive. Morning began with trembling. The ground cracked near their camp, opening a long wound in the soil. Blue light poured out, glowing like fire beneath the earth. Ethan pulled the women back. Then the crack closed again, sealing as if it had never been. The aliens whispered in fear. One of them said in broken words, "Planet, not ground. Planet. Watching." Ethan gripped the glowing blade. "It's testing us again." Food was running out. The poisonous fruits made their stomachs twist, and strange insects stung with burning venom. The glowing pool inside the ruins gave them water, but water alone could not keep them strong. So Ethan went hunting. He moved deeper into the jungle, the alien women behind him. Strange plants towered above, their flowers glowing softly. Some opened when Ethan passed, releasing clouds of yellow dust. The dust clung to his skin, burning. He coughed and tore away his shirt, shaking it off. Then one of the women screamed. A vine had wrapped around her leg. It tightened fast, pulling her toward the tree. The bark split open like a mouth, lined with sharp thorns. Ethan charged. He slashed the vine with his blade. Blue sap sprayed out, and the vine recoiled. He pulled the alien free just before the tree's mouth snapped shut. The aliens gasped. "Planet. Hunting," one whispered. Ethan's jaw tightened. "It doesn't just grow, it traps." As they pushed on, more dangers appeared. Roots shifted beneath their feet, rising like snakes to trip them. Flowers spat acid when touched. Even the ground itself seemed to tilt, forcing them toward pits filled with sharp stones. Ethan fought every moment, cutting vines, shielding the aliens, pulling them from traps. Sweat dripped down his face. His muscles ached, but he did not stop. Every danger proved one thing. This planet was not only a prison, it was a weapon. By nightfall, they found shelter in a cave. Its entrance was hidden by hanging roots, and inside, the walls glowed faintly. The aliens collapsed in exhaustion. Ethan stayed near the mouth of the cave, blade ready. But even in the cave, the planet did not rest. Small roots crept across the floor, silent and slow. They curled toward the sleeping aliens. Ethan cut them, Away again and again until finally the roots retreated back into the soil. He whispered into the darkness, "I know you can hear me. You won't take them." The jungle answered with silence, heavy and watchful. The next morning, thunder rolled across the sky. Dark clouds formed fast, swirling like a storm born of rage. The air grew heavy, thick with electricity. Then lightning fell, not white, but green. It struck the ground in front of them, exploding the soil into glass. The aliens screamed. Ethan shielded them, heart racing. Another bolt struck, closer. The storm was not random, it was chasing them. "Run!" Ethan shouted. They fled through the forest as lightning struck around them, burning trees, splitting rocks. The jungle lit up in flashes of green fire. One alien stumbled, her leg weak from the vine wound. Lightning struck beside her, throwing her into the mud. Ethan grabbed her, pulling her up just as another bolt slammed into the ground where she had been. The storm followed, hunting like a beast. Finally, they reached a ridge. Ethan looked down and froze. Below them was a wide field of broken machines half buried in soil. Towers of metal, shattered ships, and strange weapons lay scattered like bones. The aliens whispered, terrified. "Graveyard of the lost." Ethan understood. These were not ruins. They were wrecks. Others had come here before, warriors, explorers, maybe prisoners. All had failed. The planet had killed them, one by one. They climbed down into the graveyard. The storm lessened, as if the planet was satisfied for now. Ethan searched the wrecks, hoping to find food, tools, anything useful. In one broken ship, he found sealed packs. The food inside was strange, dried, but still safe to eat. Relief washed over him. For the first time in days, they could eat without fear. But hope came with a shadow. As Ethan searched, he noticed the machines around them were not dead. Some still glowed faintly, red lights blinking. They were watching, like the drones. The aliens begged him to leave. Graveyard cursed, "Stay too long, planet angry." But Ethan's eyes caught something else, a signal device, broken but glowing. He picked it up. It hummed in his hand. A voice came through, faint but clear. "Survivors, remain, fight, never leave." Then the voice faded. Ethan's heart sank. That was no legend. Someone had once spoken those words and had never escaped. As night fell, the ground beneath the graveyard trembled. The machines began to stir, metal arms twitched, broken eyes lit red. The dead were waking. Ethan raised the glowing blade. His voice was steady, though his heart thundered. "This planet isn't just alive," he said. "It's a trap, and it's not done with us yet." The machines began to crawl out of the soil, moving toward them with glowing eyes. The fight was far from over. The graveyard of machines came alive. Red eyes blinked in the darkness, glowing from broken helmets and shattered bodies. Metal arms scraped against stone as half-dead machines pulled themselves out of the ground. They were not whole. Some, missing legs, others twisted, but they moved with one purpose, to kill. The alien women cried out in terror. They clung to each other, their glowing eyes wide, their voices shaking. Ethan stood in front of them, the glowing blade in his hand. His body ached, his wounds burned, but he did not step back. "Stay behind me," he said firmly. "We fight together." The aliens shook their heads. One whispered, "We cannot fight, we only hide." Ethan's voice was fire. "Then you die hiding, or you live fighting, your choice." The first machine lunged. Its claws swung down, sparks flying as they scraped the ground. Ethan stepped forward, blade flashing blue. With one strike, he split the machine in half. The aliens gasped. But more came. 10, 20. Crawling, dragging, stumbling toward them. Their red eyes glowed like a sea of fire. Ethan turned, his voice sharp. "Pick up the bones, the metal, anything sharp. You fight or you die." The aliens hesitated. Fear chained them. But then one, the silver-skinned leader, bent down, lifting a jagged piece of broken armor. Her golden eyes met Ethan's. She nodded. Another followed, then another. One by one, the 20 women armed themselves with scraps from the graveyard. Ethan smiled, grim and proud. That's it. Now fight with me. The battle began. Ethan slashed through machines, his glowing blade cutting like fire. Sparks rained with every strike. Beside him, the aliens screamed and swung their makeshift weapons. Their strikes were clumsy at first, weak, but each blow grew stronger. A blue-skinned alien stabbed a machine with a sharp bone, her eyes wide with shock when it fell. Another smashed a metal head with a stone, her fear turning into rage. For the first time, they were not running. They were fighting. The machines pressed harder. One grabbed Ethan, its claws digging into his arm. He gritted his teeth, forcing the blade upward, slicing it apart. Another leapt from behind, but the silver-skinned leader struck it down before it reached him. Ethan looked at her. She breathed hard, her hands shaking, but she stood tall. For the first time, he saw not fear in her eyes, but strength. "You can fight," he said. She whispered, "because you fight." Hours seemed to pass in minutes. The graveyard became a storm of fire, sparks, and screams. The aliens fought side by side with the human who refused to give up. At last, silence fell. Broken machines lay scattered across the ground, their red eyes dark. The air smelled of smoke and metal. The aliens stood among the wreckage, blood and sweat covering them, their glowing eyes fierce. They had survived. Ethan lowered his blade, his chest rising and falling like a drum. He was covered in cuts and bruises, but he smiled. "You see?" he said softly. "You're not weak. You're stronger than you think." The silver-skinned leader stepped forward. Her golden eyes locked on him. "Human, why? Why you fight for us? You could leave us, run." Ethan shook his head. "Because humans don't leave people behind. Not on my watch." The words were simple, but they struck deep. The aliens bowed their heads, whispering in their soft language. When they looked up again, their fear was gone. In its place was trust. That night, they built a fire in the graveyard. For the first time since the crash, laughter broke the silence. The aliens shared food from the wreck packs, their voices softer, lighter. Ethan sat near the fire, sharpening the glowing blade. His eyes were tired, but his heart was steady. He looked at them, 20 women who had been terrified, helpless. Now they were warriors, and they had chosen him as their leader. But peace never lasted long on this planet. As the fire burned, a sound carried on the wind, low, deep, and endless. Drums. The aliens froze, their eyes wide again. "Hunters," one whispered. Ethan stood, blade ready. In the distance, red lights flickered between the trees. Dozens, maybe hundreds. The hunters were coming. The silver-skinned leader touched his arm. "We cannot face them. Too many." Ethan's jaw tightened. His voice was calm, but his eyes burned. "Then we don't run. We fight smarter." He pointed at the graveyard of wrecks. "We use this. We turn this place into a trap. If they want us, they'll bleed for it." The aliens looked at him, unsure but willing. Slowly, they nodded. Through the night, Ethan worked with them. He showed them how to sharpen metal, how to set traps with vines, how to hide blades in the ground. He turned wreckage into shields, bones into spears, fire into walls. The aliens followed his every word, their hands learning the craft of war. By dawn, the graveyard had become a fortress. Ethan stood at its center, the glowing blade in hand. The aliens beside him with their weapons ready. The sound of drums grew louder. Red lights filled the jungle. The hunters were almost here. Ethan raised his blade to the sky. His voice rang out like thunder. "They think we're prey. Tonight, we show them what it means to fight a human." The drums shook the jungle. From every direction, red lights flickered between the trees. The hunters were coming in numbers greater than Ethan had ever seen. Dozens, maybe hundreds. Their armor glowed in the dark and their weapons hissed with deadly energy. In the middle of the graveyard, Ethan stood with the 20 alien women. Behind them, their traps waited, sharpened bones, hidden pits, fires ready to spread. It was not much, but it was something. The silver-skinned leader touched Ethan's arm. Her golden eyes burned with new strength. "We fight with you." To the end, Ethan nodded. His voice was calm, steady. "We don't die here. We survive." The hunters marched into the graveyard. Their red eyes scanned the wrecks, their weapons raised. The leader raised his arm and the drum stopped. Silence filled the air. Then, with one gesture, the hunters charged. Ethan shouted. Now, the traps exploded into action. Fires roared to life, spreading fast across the wrecks. Hidden pits swallowed charging hunters, their screams echoing as spikes pierced their armor. Vines whipped tight, pulling others into sharp walls of broken steel. The aliens fought beside Ethan, their fear gone. They struck with spears, with bones, with fire. They moved like a unit, like a tribe reborn. Ethan's glowing blade cut through armor, sparks flying with every strike. He fought at the front, never backing down, never slowing. For a moment it seemed they might win. Then the ground trembled. The hunters stopped. Their red eyes turned toward the ridge. The earth split apart, shaking with thunder. From the crack, something enormous rose. A machine, but not like the others. It stood taller than the ruins, its body black steel, its eyes burning like suns. Its arms were massive cannons, its chest glowing with a red core. Each step it took cracked the ground. The aliens froze. Even the hunters bowed their heads, the silver-skinned leader whispered, trembling. "The Guardian!" Ethan's jaw tightened. So this was the final test. The Guardian roared, a sound like mountains breaking. It raised one arm, firing a blast of red energy. The explosion tore apart wrecks, fire and smoke swallowing the graveyard. Ethan pulled the aliens back. "Move, stay together!" The hunters scattered, but many stayed, fighting through the chaos. To them, killing the human mattered more than surviving the Guardian. Ethan swung his blade, cutting down 2 hunters, then faced the giant machine. His voice rang out. "If this planet wants me, it's going to have to kill me." The battle turned into madness. The Guardian's blasts shook the earth, ripping holes in the ground. Hunters fought both humans and aliens, desperate and furious. The alien women stood with Ethan, their weapons striking, their voices crying out with courage they never knew they had. But the Guardian was unstoppable. Its armor deflected their strikes. Its red core glowed brighter with every attack. Ethan's mind raced. He knew brute force would not win. He had to think like a human. Adapt. Outsmart. His eyes locked on the glowing core in its chest. That was the weakness. That was the heart. He turned to the silver-skinned leader. "I need fire, all of it. On me." She hesitated, then nodded. The women spread, setting every wreck aflame. Smoke rose into the sky, heat filling the graveyard. Ethan ran toward the Guardian. It fired again, the blast shaking the ground, but he dove through smoke and fire, rolling across the earth. He climbed the wrecks, leaping higher until he was level with its chest. With a roar, he drove the glowing blade into the core. The Guardian screamed, its body shaking violently. Red light exploded, fire spilling across the graveyard. Ethan held on, his hands burning, his body screaming in pain. He pushed the blade deeper, deeper, until the core shattered. The Guardian's eyes went dark. With a final shudder, the colossal machine collapsed, shaking the earth as it fell. Silence. The hunters froze. Their red eyes flickered, their bodies trembling. Then, one by one, they dropped their weapons and fled into the jungle. The graveyard was filled only with smoke, fire, and the sound of heavy breathing. Ethan pulled the blade free, falling to his knees. His body was broken, his skin burned, but he was alive. The aliens rushed to him, lifting him to his feet. Their eyes glowed with awe and pride. "You killed the Guardian," the silver-skinned leader whispered. Ethan shook his head. "We killed it, together." As dawn rose, the smoke cleared. In the distance, among the ruins, a ship stood waiting, hidden until now. Its surface glowed faintly, ancient but alive. The aliens stared. Escape. A way out. Ethan felt the weight of the glowing blade in his hand. The planet had tested him again and again, but now it offered a choice. Leave, or remain. He looked at the 20 women, their faces tired but proud. They had become warriors. They had become his people. He smiled faintly. "Let's go home." Together, they walked toward the ship. Behind them, the planet trembled one last time. The jungle roared, the ground shook, but the path to the ship stayed open. Ethan turned once, looking back at the living world that had tried to break him. His voice was steady. "You picked the wrong human." The ship's doors opened, light spilling out. The human and the 20 alien women stepped inside, leaving the prison planet behind. For the first time, they were free. But Ethan knew one thing for certain. If the universe had built such a world to test him, then this was only the beginning.